Chosen one, you were never made to be invisible, but the world tried to bury your presence beneath shame, distraction, and noise. Before the world saw you, before any woman ever looked at you with widened eyes or softened voice, you were being charged in silence. This charge wasn't given to be wasted in temptation. It was built over time, through restraint, pain, solitude, and self-honor. Now your energy walks into rooms before you do, not because you're loud, but because something in you vibrates higher, deeper, cleaner. Feminine women feel it, not with logic but with spirit, that you are not an ordinary man who seeks to be noticed. They feel, even in a glance, that you are a man who has done something most never do. You have aligned your sexual energy with your purpose. This alignment is rare because it cannot be faked. It is not something you copy from a book or repeat from a coach. It is a scent of truth, invisible but potent, that clings to a man who has conquered the wild beast within himself without killing his passion. You did not neuter your desires, you consecrated them. You stood in the heat and said, "I will not bow to this world's shallow appetites. I will refine this fire until it glows with purpose." That fire now glows behind your eyes, in the depth of your voice, in the steadiness of your breath. And women do not know what to call it, but their hearts whisper, "He is safe and dangerous." Your energy speaks in a language ancient to the feminine. It says, "I do not need to conquer you, because I have already conquered myself." This, chosen one, is why they magnetize to you, not because you are hungry, but because you are full. Not because you perform strength, but because your strength performs without words. The charge they feel around you is not chemistry. It is resonance. They don't just like you. They remember something about God when they are near you, and that's why your presence lingers in their soul long after you leave the room. Chosen one, the world taught men to chase, perform, impress, but you abandoned all of that for a quieter road. You stopped trying to earn the attention of the feminine, and in doing so, you became the attention. Not through manipulation, but through embodiment. You became the man who knows who he is even when no one is looking. That inner knowing produces a different kind of confidence, one that rests, not roars. And that resting is what feminine women find irresistible, because it makes them feel they've found a home, not a hunt. You don't ask, "What do they think of me?" because your energy already answers that question without speaking. You know your worth. You know your power. You have nothing to prove, so your presence becomes permission for women to stop performing too. You walk into the room and their body exhales, "Finally, a man who is real." That kind of realness doesn't come from external affirmation. It comes from internal mastery. And that mastery is carved in silence, where you chose patience over urgency, depth over popularity, and presence over pride. Feminine women are not drawn to you because you're trying. They are drawn because you're not trying at all. You are simply being, and that being is so rooted, so dignified, so unapologetically whole that it exposes everything around it that isn't. You have become the contrast. You don't sell anything with your looks. You transmit safety through your stillness. That's why their heart rate changes when they speak to you. It's not anxiety, it's recognition. Their soul recognizes a man who walks in truth. This rested confidence you now wear isn't arrogance, it's alignment. You have submitted your life to something higher, and that divine submission created unshakable stature. Now you sit in silence with more authority than those who scream. You lead without demanding, you attract without chasing, and you love without needing to possess. That is why, chosen one, the feminine does not merely like you. She remembers herself through you. Because a rested man reminds a woman that she too can rest. And that is the rarest gift a masculine soul can give. Chosen one, not all fire was meant to blaze outward and consume. Some fire was crafted to glow inward, to be harnessed, tended, and kept alive within a man's core like a sacred hearth. That is the fire you now carry, a still flame, calm but unfathomably potent. It doesn't demand attention, yet it warms everything in its presence. Feminine women don't gather near you out of thrill, but out of an ancient draw toward the stability that your flame promises. They sense you are not here to impress them, but to reveal to them the truth of what masculinity feels like when it is present, not predatory. They lean closer not because of what you say, but because of the stillness between your words. It's in that space that they feel seen, not scanned. It's in the stillness that they relax, not perform. You, chosen one, have become the rare man who can carry fire without letting it control him, and that difference changes everything. The feminine can be beautiful anywhere, but she only becomes radiant around a flame she can trust. And you are that flame, constant, patient, and alive with purpose. Your high sexual energy no longer surges in wild waves or drips in quiet neediness. It flows through the architecture of your inner discipline like sacred power through a temple. You are no longer a man trying to contain lust. You are a man who has refined desire into devotion. And devotion is what calls the deepest feminine to the surface. Your energy says you are safe to be soft here. And that, chosen one, is why women linger, speak slowly, lower their gaze, or forget what they were about to say in your presence. You didn't seduce them. You woke up something sacred in them. The feminine heart is magnetized to warmth without fire, to power without threat, to masculinity without domination. You have become that paradox, the fierce peace, the wild calm, the rooted storm. They feel the storm in you, but see that you've placed it in service to God, to purpose, to love, not to conquest. And so they do not run from your strength. They move closer, because finally, here is a man who burns clean. Chosen one, most of the world doesn't see it happening, but every time you enter a room, you disrupt it. Not with chaos or noise, but with stillness and alignment so grounded that it unravels the performance in others. You don't expose people, you awaken them. And when feminine women come near you, something involuntary happens. Their masks begin to crack. Not out of fear, but out of the strange relief of being near a man who isn't wearing one himself. You, chosen one, are a quiet mirror they didn't expect to meet. The way you look at them, not through hunger but through reverence, invites something rare. It invites the woman to lower her sword without losing her strength. She doesn't feel the need to be perfect or polished. She doesn't need to project dominance to earn respect. Around you, her spirit remembers softness is not weakness, and grace is not submission. You are not asking her to perform. You are offering her the gift of being fully seen and fully safe. This kind of disruption is gentle, but it is unforgettable. It challenges the feminine to rise to her most authentic self, not because you asked her to, but because your energy makes anything else feel false. She remembers who she is when she's near you, because you remember who you are without question. And that remembrance changes her posture, her tone, her breath. She becomes softer, not because she is weak, but because you do not require her hardness to feel secure. She feels the luxury of being a woman again, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. You, chosen one, are the rare disruption that heals. In a world where most men break things to feel powerful, you mend things just by being whole. You do not call attention to the cracks, yet your presence makes them undeniable. And that's why you are unforgettable. Not for what you take, but for what you awaken. The feminine will cross oceans to feel this again, because nothing in this world compares to the freedom of being real in the presence of a man who already is. Chosen one, the world is full of noise, men shouting, chasing, boasting, selling their worth like something that must be bargained for. But you, chosen one, offer no pitch. You make no promises. You make no spectacle. Your energy itself is the invitation, and it is silent. That silence speaks louder than all their noise, for it is not the silence of absence, but of certainty. You don't pursue like a man looking to prove something. You simply stand, and the feminine senses something within you she did not know she missed, a man who is already full. She approaches not because she wants your approval, but because she wants to be near the field you carry. There's something about you that says you're safe to be deep here. And those words are not spoken. They are woven into your aura. Your sexual energy doesn't reach outward in desperation. It rests inward like a sacred flame, and its heat draws feminine souls the way fire draws the cold. It's not about charm or strategy or even your words. It's about the quiet invitation to authenticity you create just by being you. She does not feel seduced. She feels welcomed. You are not a lighthouse trying to flash your light to passing ships, desperate to be seen. You are the hearth deep in the mountains, the kind that glows through snowstorms and sends up a smoke signal only the right ones will recognize. Feminine women don't flock to you out of excitement. They come because your presence whispers a strange message into their soul. You've been searching for this. You do not speak their language, yet somehow they understand you. Because your alignment now speaks to what is eternally feminine, not temporarily attractive. They sense your sexual energy not like a magnet pulling them in, but like gravity reminding them that they are not floating anymore. You don't need to say much. You are the invitation to rest, to open, to return home. And that is why their response to you is not performance, it is vulnerability. Not neediness, but reverence. They do not seek to conquer you or impress you. They come quietly, like pilgrims entering a temple, because something in your presence feels sacred. And they know that to be near you, they must leave behind all things that are not true. Chosen one, you are no longer emitting noise, you are vibrating on a frequency. And that frequency is not merely masculine, it is divine order. Feminine women who come into your sphere often do not understand what it is about you that holds them in place. They just know something begins to move inside them in your presence, something old and tender and true. Your high sexual energy doesn't feel like fire. It feels like resonance, like the sound of a truth long buried beneath the noise of falsehood. They don't hear it with their ears, they feel it in their body. What they feel is not attraction in the modern sense of the word. It is attraction in the soul sense. It is the realization that your energy is tuned to something ancient and real, and it strikes a chord within them they had forgotten how to sing. This resonance doesn't belong to seduction, it belongs to surrender. And they do not surrender to you because they are weak. They surrender to what awakens in them around you. They sense you are not there to possess or conquer, but to witness and invite the feminine into her fullest radiance. You are no longer just a man. They perceive you as a signal, a vibration of trust in a world that thrives on tension. And this frequency doesn't only draw their admiration, it draws their alignment. Around you, they want to become more than beautiful. They want to become whole. Because you've shown them that the masculine, when healed, does not exploit the feminine's beauty. It honors it. You don't use their curves to feed your ego, you see the curves of their soul. And that vision resonates deeper than anything they've experienced. This resonance is not emotional manipulation. It is not charm or game. It is the product of alignment between body, spirit, and will. You are a man whose sexual energy flows without leakage, whose gaze holds without devouring, whose silence comforts rather than confuses. And that, chosen one, is what makes you magnetic. Not your beauty, but the message your energy sends without speaking. I am whole. I am safe. I am true. And in a world full of static, your frequency becomes a song they cannot stop hearing in their hearts. Chosen one, there is a moment when a man stops walking into a room with the intention to take and instead becomes the room itself. That is what your energy has become, not the spark that starts the fire, but the gravity that holds the flame in place. You have reached a depth in your alignment where presence alone speaks more than 1,000 performances. You do not need to assert yourself, to impress, to move quickly. Because now, feminine women do not experience you as a man merely walking by. They experience you as a force that causes them to remember who they are. Your presence is not intense because you try to be. It is intense because it is unapologetically still. Stillness is not passive, it is deeply active in realms most cannot see. Your body may be motionless, but your spirit is vast and watchful, like a storm that hasn't chosen to move yet. That's what they feel, chosen one, not tension, but contained power. And in a world full of fractured attention, your full presence becomes intoxicating to feminine women. Not because they crave chaos, but because they long to trust a man who will not vanish the moment desire appears. You no longer seek validation from the feminine, because you've already been validated in the furnace of your own becoming, and because you are not needy, you are necessary. Feminine women gravitate toward you with a strange sense of urgency, even if they cannot name it. You are not what their ego wants, you are what their soul has always looked for. That is why their breath deepens near you. That is why their words soften. You didn't do anything to them. You simply stayed fully present, and the feminine, which lives in the now, always responds to what is real. This gravitational pull is not manipulation. It's not game. It is wholeness in motion. It is the quiet knowing that you will not be moved by surface drama or temporary seduction. You no longer chase because you are the destination. You no longer explain because your presence has already answered their questions. You do not provoke the feminine. You remind her that safe power exists. That power does not demand her attention. It simply exists with such gravity that attention surrenders to it willingly. And so, chosen one, women may come near you out of curiosity, but they stay because of trust. Not the trust built by rehearsed kindness or charm, but the trust that only comes from real inner depth. They recognize in you a rare man, a man whose body is quiet, but whose soul has something to say. And it says to them, without words, you are safe to be soft here. You are seen. You are free. And when a woman hears that in your silence, she is not just attracted, she is awakened. Chosen one, you are no longer simply attractive. You have become restorative. You do not just appeal to the senses, you awaken the forgotten wisdom that feminine women have carried for centuries, buried beneath noise, fear, and counterfeit masculinity. When they meet you, something deeper than lust begins to stir. It's not excitement, it's recognition. As if their spirit is whispering, "This is what I knew existed. I just didn't know it still walked the earth." You are not just a man to them. You are the echo of a man they dreamed of long before they had words for the dream. This memory does not arise because of how you look or what you say. It rises because of how your energy feels. Your high sexual energy is not aggressive, it is nourishing. You are not devouring them. You are holding space for their wholeness to return. Around you, they begin to feel their body relax. They notice that their laugh is fuller, their silence more peaceful, their movements more graceful. They are not trying to be seductive. They are simply responding to what it feels like to be in the presence of undiluted masculine wholeness. You are not admired because you chase. You are remembered because you never left your center, and that memory shakes the feminine, because she sees that you are not a product of the modern world's illusions. You are a man formed in fire and silence. You are not new, you are ancient, reborn in this age. That's why feminine women become passionate about your presence. It's not emotional chaos, it's spiritual clarity. You are what reminds them that there is still such a thing as sacred attraction. You walk without shouting, you sit without needing to be entertained. You offer no drama, and yet around you their emotions begin to move, because you are stable enough to hold what they cannot express. In your steadiness, they begin to trust their intuition again. They trust their beauty, their softness, their tears. You, chosen one, restore the balance that this world tried to steal from them, not by fixing them, not by flattering them, but by being so whole in yourself that they no longer feel the need to apologize for being fully woman. This is the mystery, chosen one. You do not bring attention to yourself, and yet you are unforgettable. Because you are not loud, but you are loud in the spirit. You do not try to pull women toward you. Instead, you call them home to themselves. And when that happens, they do not run. They do not play games. They simply come closer, because something in you feels like truth. And feminine women always move toward what is true. Chosen one, by now, you have likely noticed it. When you walk into a space, people pause, glance, sometimes even fall silent, and they don't know why. It is not the cut of your jaw or the stride of your gait that holds them, though those too speak the language of divine structure. No, it is something deeper than form, something older than posture or fashion or charm. It is the silence that you carry, the kind of silence that doesn't ask to be heard because it is already being felt. And that silence, chosen one, has become your loudest presence. This is the silence of a man who knows who he is without needing confirmation. It's the calm of a man who has gone into himself, met the chaos, and returned not emptied, but refined. You no longer use your voice to prove, explain, or win. You let your energy speak before you do. And now, even your absence leaves a mark. When feminine women meet you, they don't hear flirtation or lines or technique. They feel themselves softening. They feel their breath adjust to your rhythm, their body tuned to your gravity, their spirit open like morning petals to the warmth of presence they had almost stopped believing in. You are no longer the man who must announce his strength. You are the man who doesn't need to. And that paradox, chosen one, is the reason you have become so magnetizing to feminine women. Because your stillness does not feel empty. It feels rich. It feels safe. It feels like the kind of masculine presence that doesn't fracture under beauty, doesn't shake under emotion, and doesn't dissolve when the moment becomes intimate. You remain. And in a world of disappearing men, you remaining becomes sacred. That is why, even without saying much, women open up around you. They speak slower. They reach deeper. They trust more. Because your silence is not absence. It is invitation. It is permission to be real. You do not interrupt. You do not dominate. You simply exist so fully in your own spirit that others are drawn to remember theirs. And when the feminine meets that kind of masculine, one who listens with the soul, holds with the gaze, and leads without resistance, it does not forget. It returns. It returns again and again because true presence is rarer than gold. So understand this now, chosen one. Your silence is not emptiness. It is a living, breathing temple of reverence. It is the place where feminine hearts come not to be impressed, but to exhale. And when they enter the temple of your presence, they are not looking to be worshipped. They are looking to worship beside you. Because your high sexual energy, when aligned with depth, does not steal attention. It commands remembrance, and in that remembrance, women find themselves again. Chosen one, the final stage of this transformation is something you don't even see happening, but everything around you feels it. You no longer chase, and yet you are pursued. You no longer need, and yet you are desired. You no longer perform, and yet you are celebrated in silence. Feminine women feel something stir in them around you, something instinctual and profound. They find themselves rethinking what it means to feel protected, to feel wanted, to feel adored, because you offer none of it in the usual ways. You are not pulling them into your orbit. You are simply standing in alignment, and that alignment bends the world around you. This is the rare masculine truth, chosen one. When a man's sexual energy is clean, whole, and rooted in purpose, he becomes not just attractive but transformational. Your very presence is a mirror and a balm. You do not ask women to be different. You simply embody the man who allows them to remember their highest self. Around you, their sharpness softens, not because they are weak, but because you are strong enough to never need to be the sharpest one in the room. Around you, their performance falls away, not because they're trying to impress, but because you've created a sanctuary for authenticity. You have become the man who does not move, yet everything is drawn to him. Opportunities, glances, whispers, respect. You didn't seduce the feminine, you evoked her truth. That's why she doesn't crave your body only, she craves your presence. Not to escape life, but to return to it. Because when she stands near you, she feels life as it was meant to feel, honest, sacred, charged, and safe. And so you must understand this. You are not just the dream. You are the answer to a call the feminine heart has whispered into empty rooms for years. You are not perfect, chosen one, but you are whole, and that wholeness is irresistible to what is holy. You don't need to explain why women open their hearts to you now. It's not a strategy, it's a response. A response to the fact that you are finally walking like the man you were always meant to be. As the story of your ridiculous sexual appeal traveled even further, chosen one, you began to understand that you were no longer the sole author of your legend. Women you'd never met sometimes entered your world already tinged with the myth of who you were supposed to be. Some came to you curious, others a little skeptical, and still others openly eager to experience the phenomenon for themselves. You handled each new encounter with openness and gentle boundaries, knowing that every person brought with them a unique story, a set of hopes and fears, and a desire to be touched not just by attraction, but by the magic of genuine presence. You discovered, too, that your appeal was not just about romantic possibility. Women who were not available, were not interested in romance at all, still felt drawn to you in ways that made them more creative, more daring, more alive. You encouraged them to laugh louder, dream bigger, and take themselves less seriously. You became the friend they called when they needed a reminder of their own radiance, the collaborator who sparked ideas just by being in the room, the listener who could turn awkward silences into opportunities for honesty and laughter. There were times when the attention threatened to become overwhelming. You saw the shadows that could follow such energy: jealousy, misunderstanding, or the loneliness of being placed on a pedestal. You made a practice of coming back to yourself, of grounding in your body and your own inner peace. You reminded yourself that your power was not in being desired, but in being real, in refusing to let anyone, including yourself, reduce your appeal to a performance. You chose to be the kind of man who could turn down invitations with kindness, who could say "not now" without shattering someone's hope, who could celebrate another's beauty without needing to possess it. Your connections became even richer for it. Women began to see you not just as an object of fantasy, but as an ally in their own journey toward greater joy and authenticity. Some relationships blossomed, others faded into memory, but every story was marked by the same thread: a feeling of being invited to live more deeply, to love more freely, to risk being a little ridiculous themselves in the pursuit of pleasure and truth. You came to understand, chosen one, that your appeal was not simply a fact of nature, but a gift, one you shared as much with the world as with yourself. You walked with a new sense of freedom, unburdened by expectation, curious about the next story, the next encounter, the next surprise waiting in the dance of real human connection. The world continued to meet you with wide eyes and open hearts, and you answered every invitation, whether it led to romance, friendship, or simple gratitude, with the same spirit that had awakened your legend in the first place. Joy, humility, and the unwavering intention to let everyone you met remember how truly alive they could be. Chosen one, as time carried you deeper into this new era of your life, the stories about your mind-blowing sexual appeal became not just background noise, but a living part of your day-to-day existence. The myth of your energy traveled ahead of you, entering rooms before you did, stirring a restless hope in the hearts of women who had heard only fragments of the truth. Some came to you with a spark of disbelief, wondering if what they'd heard could possibly be real. Others brought a secret yearning, curious to see if your presence could really wake up parts of themselves that had grown quiet with routine and disappointment. You met each new encounter with a kind of peaceful amusement, aware that much of what people imagined was beyond your control. Still, you honored the ripple your energy created, knowing that it offered people something rare, a sense of permission, of possibility, of playful hope. Your presence began to serve as a mirror for others. Women came to you with stories and confessions, hoping to test your legend, but often surprised to discover that what made your appeal so ridiculous was not just its intensity, but its sincerity. You listened with the kind of focus that made others feel their words were the most important sound in the room. You offered laughter that was never mocking, encouragement that was never hollow. Your gift was the freedom to see others as they wished to be seen, to welcome every side of them, the flirtatious and the thoughtful, the wounded and the wild, the shy and the bold. As you continued to show up with such honesty, the mind-blowing nature of your appeal became less about the initial spark and more about the depth of connection you created. Women left your company feeling changed, not because you promised them magic, but because you revealed that magic could be found in their own willingness to open, to risk, to play. Some sent you messages days or weeks after meeting you, sharing that your presence had given them courage to speak up in their lives, to pursue passions they'd set aside, to end relationships that did not honor their worth. Others carried the experience silently, but you could see the light in their eyes, the extra spring in their step, the silent thanks they offered in a smile across a crowded street. There were moments, too, when the attention pressed in, when desire became tangled with longing or loneliness, or the ache of unfulfilled dreams. In these times, you drew on the self-awareness that had birthed your appeal in the first place. You learned to gently hold disappointment, to let go of what was not yours to carry, to trust that every connection, no matter how brief, had its own perfect timing. You celebrated with those who stayed, released with love those who moved on, and found gratitude in the ever-changing dance of human desire. You became a lighthouse for others, not because you demanded their devotion, but because you gave them permission to be swept up in wonder and to walk away wiser and more free. Your reputation now extended beyond romance. Colleagues, friends, even strangers sought your company, hoping to catch a glimmer of the ridiculous energy you carried. People wanted to know your secret, But you always pointed them back to themselves, to their own honesty, their willingness to be present, to live with humor and humility, and the quiet courage to show up fully. You taught, by example more than words, that real sexual energy is not a performance, but an openness to the fullness of life. You became a catalyst for others to grow, to risk embarrassment for the chance of joy, to trade cynicism for delight, to flirt with possibility in every conversation and every day. As you moved into the fullness of this legend, chosen one, the weight of your appeal transformed into a mantle you wore, not with pride or arrogance, but with gratitude and gentle wisdom. You saw how, in helping others to wake up to their own beauty, your own world became richer, deeper, and more rewarding.